And we are live. Welcome to another edition of A Book and a Beverage. We are honored to be here tonight, very late for us, with James Dulin. James, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry for keeping you up so late.
Hey, if we fall asleep on you, it's on you.
Well, I'll just have to keep on talking then.
It's past our bedtime.
And really, it's the people tomorrow who are going to be grouchy towards it need to have the apology, not us.
Yeah, we don't work tomorrow, so it's all good. You caught us on a good day.
So, we were just talking before we came on live. You've published 2 books and a novella in your series.
I have, yeah.
And how long is it going to be? And are there going to be spin-offs?
Man, dude, it's like work up to it.
You're going to be talking about Janeway anytime now, so I want to get this in early.
Diving in at 49 seconds.
Well, we got to be efficient with our time. Hey, Bo. So yeah, it's a planned trilogy, the Manitou trilogy. I have thoughts about a spin-off series that will be in the same world, following some different characters and different things going on. But I haven't done a whole lot of work on that series beyond just some thoughts. I also have some other series that I have planned. So I don't know when I'm going to come back to the world of Ania after I finish this last book, hopefully this year.
Good.
So we'll see where else I go.
Okay. And we were talking about Spiffbo, and neither of us are going to be in Spiffbo this coming year. So what do you think about the lottery system for people like Roe, who are going to hope to be in there?
Who's not going to freaking have a chance?
Good luck. I think something had to be done, because at some point you're going to be fighting for the first 3 seconds to try to get in the 300. So something had to be done. I don't know if this is the exact right answer, keeping it open for, I think, 24 hours and then doing a lottery. I don't know what the right answer is. At the end of the day, this is like a bunch of volunteers trying to put together something to highlight authors. So that's great. It sucks for those people who have been planning their book releases around Spiffbo and now kind of have to hope that they make it through.
I think, though, that it's a chip in a chair, right? So as someone who's never done it before, if it's going to close in like 3 minutes, right? And I think legitimately it's probably going to close in 3 to 10 minutes if they do it the old way. This is a much better option, right? Because your odds of getting in a lottery are probably actually better than they were of getting in that first 3 to 8 minutes. You know, is it ideal? No. So looking out 5 years, if the thing is still going on, I can see that they'll probably do what BBNY is doing and say, send us your stuff and your $30, right? And we'll put you in, and we're probably still going to do what amounts to a lottery anyway to get the first cut down. But thanks for your $30. So
yeah, they also BBNY. They just read the first chapter and then they make their cuts after 1 chapter. So I mean, that would be manageable, but I mean, does anybody really want that?
It's really a hard system. I don't know what the right answer is. I think I've heard some authors that are frustrated because going indie, a lot of people are indie because they wanted to have some control over how their books worked, how they were put out there, how they were marketed. And then this feels like a loss of control. And so I get that feeling, but I also get the feeling of like, okay, I didn't type fast enough and now I can't enter the competition this year. That's not necessarily a great feeling either. So there has to be some balance. And I honestly think Mark is trying to do the best he can with the cards he's been dealt.
Yeah, Tim is right here. I think you're going to have the first wave might be a little lesser quality on average, but maybe not, right? I mean, there was nothing stopping someone from writing a bad book and being fast on the trigger, right? But I think your end result is still going to be very high quality books. And I do have a suggestion, Mike. We can start our own. We could do the Bald&Balding book review, book awards. What do you think?
Okay, so I read about a book a month, maybe. How many books do you?
It won't be just you and I, dummy.
Oh, we'll just get everyone else to read for us.
We'll get some other people to read them.
So, James, are you busy this year?
So, I'm a slow reader, so unless it's on audiobook, I don't have much time to read much anymore. My kids get in the way of reading. They're just really selfish that way. And so, yeah, I don't know how much help I'll be, but I do like this idea that Mike Hanley has about subgenre SBFBOs. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I was actually listening to Nicholas Fuller last night. He's talking to Mahir from
Yeah.
And I actually posted that same thing. I said, let's just have subgenres and then, have multiple. And then Mahir's like, yeah, do you know how much work it is for the reviewers?
That's true.
I'm like, yeah, there's only so many people who are willing to do that work for free.
Yeah. Well, what's a long enough time period you could do it? Too much.
Tim, starting with bald jokes already.
I know, right?
I think that is New York City behind me. This is just a painting I think we got at Goodwill. We moved into our place very quickly. I was just talking with the guys before we signed on. My son was born 4 days after we moved in, so we were doing some last minute trying to decorate and get everything together. And so this is a gem of what we were able to find and put up.
That's a bold move, moving that close to your wife giving birth.
Yeah. For some reason, we like to do things all at once. I also got a new job, I think like a month before he was born too.
I mean, that's different, right? Because you got to eat. But to move into a new place and be there so little time that you don't even have figured out which one's going to be your junk drawer is.
I wouldn't suggest it.
Huh?
I wouldn't suggest it.
No, probably not.
So I'm guessing she wasn't helping you move the couch into the house.
No, unfortunately not. Really slacking on it. I know.
Yeah, I know.
So that was her idea. Oh, if we move now, I don't have to actually do it. So that's a good choice on her part.
Yeah.
Hey, Jubilee. Glad you're
happy to have you.
So I guess we just got to have these later at night so Jubilee can join us every time. Screw sleep. Who needs that?
Yeah. I have enough beauty sleep already.
You sure?
Or bad eyesight, one or the other.
What was it? There's a good Blackadder quote. When all else fails, a pig-headed stubbornness to look facts in the face will see us through. So there you go.
Okay.
So how many books have you written, James? Total.
It's just the 2 novels and 1 novella. That's what I have so far. My writing started out in poetry. So I wrote poetry for a much longer time. I started in college and I was doing slam poetry. I was submitting poems to different online magazines and things like that. And I never thought that I could really sit down and write a full book. So I was always doubting that was something that I could do. And then one day I just decided to give it a shot. And that first draft was trash, but eventually I cooked it up into something that I'm really happy with.
Isn't that what they do in the poetry world? They snap their fingers. So good for you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
But when did your first one come out?
Last January.
All right, so man, you're right on top of that.
Yeah.
You plan them all out and just start cranking, or what?
Well, I had written the first book and the first draft of the second book before I even launched the first book.
Oh, okay.
So I already had a really good head start on that second book to get it out. So that came out November. And this summer, I was thinking of what could I do for a novella, because so many people are doing these free novellas to get more people on their newsletters. And so I was trying to think of what I could do. And this idea came to me. And so I sat down and I plotted it out, and I wrote the first draft in about a week. And then I just had to really work it until it worked till it fit into an actual story. But I find that the more I'm writing, the more I'm trying to actually exercise those muscles, the less I have to, the less drafts I have to go through. Yeah. The first book was definitely 10, 11 drafts. The second book was probably 6. And the novella was, I think, 4 or 5. So hopefully I can continue along that trend where I'm not having to rewrite myself so often to find my way to where I want the story to be.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It would be great.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll get it down to a couple.
So James, I am very good at buying books.
Yeah.
But I'm very bad at reading them. So I own all 3 of your books.
Yeah.
But, tell me who the characters are.
Okay. So Kalo is your main protagonist. Okay. Kalo is we meet him. He is in his mid-30s. He's hiding out in the middle of a forest, trying to stay away from all of the consequences of his poor decision-making when he was younger. His whole continent has been colonized by this foreign power, and he's just hiding out, trying to live his life separate from everything because he believes he does more damage to the world than he does good for it. And then he comes across Tayan, who's our second main character. She is being chased by a couple of Imperial soldiers, and against his better judgment, Kalo intervenes. And so you then have this mentee-mentor dynamic between Tayan and Kalo. Tayan's hell-bent on becoming, on avenging her parents and her family that was killed. And so Kalo decides to tell her his story because it's a very similar story, to try to get her, to stop her from making bad decisions like he did. And so you have a tale that's told in 2 parts, where we learn more about Tayan and Kalo growing together and finding their way through the world. And then we also learn about Kalo's backstory. And so you have a lot of parallels and a lot of disconnects to try to understand how their lives are similar and how they jut off. And unfortunately, it's not very biographical. I don't have magic, and I can't wield a sword.
Either one of those things would be good on the highways in Connecticut.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that would help me out.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're waving the sword out the window as you're driving, I bet you people will give way.
They will definitely give you space.
Maybe. Do you have bail money? Because these books aren't selling well enough for that.
We're just the idea guys, not
Consider
the money.
it research.
Okay.
Just call it a research expense.
I'll have to work with somebody else on logistics.
Okay. So, question for you. Kalo is the person on the first book's cover, and Tayan is on the second. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, because I love those book covers.
Yeah, can you got a couple you can hold up?
Yeah, I definitely can.
And who did your covers?
So this cover was done by Felix Ortiz. Really amazing artist.
Yeah.
And then I worked with Mike Merritt for the second cover and for my novella cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've just all come out really, really cool.
Oh yeah.
So these, I love the artistic way that some of these artists just kind of put this digital paint on the page and can really make a feeling, evoke a feeling with their art. It's one of the things I love about being an indie author is being able to work with artists directly and kind of figure out that process and make it come to life.
And at the same time, though, it makes me feel like such a fucking loser. Because you just watch these guys and they go, yeah, like this, you know, and you're like, yeah, that's the thing I couldn't draw in a million years if you don't have a supply of lead.
So, James, I have a question for you. And you don't have to give us numbers, but I'm guessing that the second two covers cost less than the first cover.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Felix Ortiz, yeah. Felix Ortiz, my goodness.
Okay.
If you want to pay for him, woo, you better have a job in Connecticut that pays well.
That is a bold choice, going to a different artist for a cover in the same series. But had you not told me that they were different artists, I wouldn't have. The second person captured the style of the first one super well.
Yep.
And they're both great artists in their own right. I think Felix is very popular. He was very popular when I first reached out to him, and he's only gotten more popular since. He's worked a lot with the Broken Bindings on their special editions of indie books. Yeah. He's doing all of their what's the starts with the M, the big series that everybody always brags about. It's very, very dark.
Malazan?
Malazan. All of their Malazan reprints and special editions. Felix Ortiz is doing the cover art for those. So he's starting to get really, really well known. And so it's becoming it's becoming hard to nail him down for a time. So that was really the reason why we had to make some adjustments, because he was just too booked.
Yeah, I'd heard somebody in another chat they were talking about that it's over a year wait for a couple.
Yeah, he's in demand, and there's reason he's in demand. He has some beautiful covers.
Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of an interesting.
That's where I heard it.
Tim. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with the whole indie author world, right? And when you bring the artist into it as well, that an artist can do the work for you or me or Mike or whoever, and then kind of get that reputation built through us to kind of progress themselves. And it's a nice kind of symbiosis, I guess, is what I was looking for.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really cool, and I love to see the kind of solidarity that we have in the indie community, because there are definitely people that are going AI with their covers and AI with their narrations, and that's out there. But I think the authors that are really committed to this community care about using people and using artists for their narration, using artists for their cover art and the special edition insert art pages and all of that. So it's really important, and I think that this community is sticking together like it does. And then you do have that opportunity to really help people rise up. There's no doubt that Felix helped me get my name out there the first time around just by having his art on my book.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a very dystopian kind of thing in the back of a lot of people's minds that, if everybody goes the AI route, eventually you will have to choose from between the options that the AI gives you. Mm-hmm. And somebody is in control of that, who's not you, right? And so your brain might think of this wonderful thing, but you still might be getting sent down this other path, right? Towards this is going to be our homogenized kind of artwork style now.
Yeah.
It's very 1984, really, when you start doing that kind of thing. And yes, that's totally, tinfoil hat kind of stuff, but pay the fucking artist, man.
Yeah. And it's a difficult thing, right? Because I think that there are corporations who are really good at selling AI tools and generative AI art as like, this is the cheap and easy way to do things. Yeah. You're not making money on it. Why not go the cheap and easy route? And I get why some people choose that. But I also think that we see time and time again where you get these advances in technology, and there's no problem with advancing technology. The problem is who's making money and who's generating a profit on that technology and who is losing out on that, because we're feeding artists work into a system that is not paying them back. And then you have these AI startups that are making tons of money off the backs of stolen work. And that's not going to be reclaimed at any point. So I think that's the issue. More than it's an adaptation of technology, that's great. But how are we going to use it, and how are we going to make sure that it's helpful for communities rather than tearing communities apart?
I do find one good use for it, though, and Mike has a story that he can chime in on the back of this with. So, like, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, right? And that's fine. I get that. I've accepted one of my many limitations. But the AI thing, if I kind of know what I want, I can go in there and get an idea of it, and then take that and give it to an artist and say, this is kind of what I'm looking for, right? Whereas Mike draws pictures. And his computer just froze. You want to tell your story about your picture with Matt?
So my picture, with Matt, yeah. So last week I was at a Comic-Con, and for my sci-fi series, it's coming out this year, so I can do Spacebo and not have to do a lottery. But anyway, the artist Matt Slay was at the same Comic-Con as me, so I was like, okay, here's what I want. I drew a stick figure of an astronaut, holding his arm because there's air escaping from it, and then tire tracks for the caravan that's on its way, and he's staring at the train that's long, long past, and he's on Mars by himself. And I take it, okay, Matt, this is what I want. And he looks at it, goes, this guy's playing the flute. I'm like, no, it's an astronaut. He's holding his arm because there's air. Goes, no, that's a guy playing the flute. I'm like, okay, I'm not an artist. So then he takes this sheet of paper where I did this really bad drawing, and he, in like 10 minutes, he has the astronaut, he has the train, he has the tracks, and he's like, is this what you want? I'm like, yes, I just want this as my cover now. I mean, just pencil sketch. And he did on the same sheet of paper is what I did mine. I'm like, now I'm just embarrassed because you have mine, the stick figure that looks like he's playing a flute. And then you have you, astronaut, who's holding the arm, and he has all the different knobs and gizmos along on the outside. And I'm like, this is why I pay you money, Matt.
Now the stick figure playing the flute has to be in the special edition.
That's right. Yeah, make it the chapter header.
Yeah.
Still.
Now your character is going to have to learn how to play the flute in a later book.
This book, I have Tuckerized so very many people in this book. Because before every chapter, I have just like a little excerpt, like 2 or 3 sentences, and then I have to attribute it to somebody. So yeah, I have so many people. I don't have a Rosaire Bushy yet in there.
Yeah, you get there. It's one of those names that takes a little time.
Yeah. So you want a PhD, do you?
I don't know if I want to work that hard.
But yeah, so that was my experience with Matt. And now I'm thinking I'm going to sign it, have him sign it. And then if I end up selling the original print, because he actually paints the cover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if someone wants to buy the cover, I'll give him the print with my signatures and his for the idea for the picture.
Nice.
Decide who they like better, the flute playing stick figure or the full-fledged astronaut. I've
got to go with the flute.
Daniel has a great idea. Let's just make that. It could be your own little your own little Mad Magazine kind of thing in there that you're just going to put your own Alfred E. Newman, right? That you just put in on everything somewhere.
I think I'll just be in front of every chapter. I'll just have a guy playing the flute as a little image.
Or maybe that just becomes the logo for your publishing imprint.
Right, there you go. Because Beaver Castle, I mean, that's Mike's thing right now. It's Beaver Castle Media.
Gotcha.
Beaver
Castle flutes. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, clearly.
It's all there. Go quickly.
Oh, Ro.
No, I won't even say anything about Beaver Castle and flutes making a great porno, but never mind.
So anyway, tell us about your world, James.
James is just shaking his head. It's like, what the hell am I doing here with this?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Tell us about your world, James. Save us.
Yeah. What's next? And what's your writing process? Do you plot it all out, or you just kind of jump in there and go?
I've tried a lot of different things. So the first time I worked on this book, I just went. So I had a bunch of ideas. I had a few notes that I'd made, but I just kind of started writing. And I knew from a previous experience that if I didn't just keep writing, that I would stop and edit and re-edit and re-edit, and I'd never finish the book. Right. So I didn't stop. I didn't edit anything. I just took some notes about things I would need to change later, and I kept on writing until I finished. And the thing is, that got results. It got me where I needed to be, because the hardest thing I found to learn as an author is to be able to write something that's bad. Just be able to get something on the page and not erase it or delete it. And so I had to do that. For my second book, there was definitely a lot more plotting and thought into how to get from A to B, because of the arc of the trilogy and making sure that it all worked together. And for this third book, there's a lot more plotting. There has to be there's been a lot of kind of discovery along the way as I've been working off of my outline, because the outline just doesn't allow my brain to work the way it needs to work. I need to be able to kind of play with things in the moment. But there are so many threads from the first two books that I have to finish in this book, that if I didn't lay it out in some kind of way, they would never get touched on. So this definitely required a lot more pre-work than in my other two books.
Does that kind of worry you? Like, oh my God, I'm going to leave some little strand out there that's forgotten about, you know?
I'm sure I will. I'm sure that there will be somebody who reads my books even closer than I do, and it's like, but what happened with this? And I'll just have to make up an answer on the spot.
Admit it, though. That's kind of the dream, right?
Yeah.
To go somewhere and have someone who's actually read your stuff carefully enough where they have questions about it and they know the characters and all that. That would almost be worth screwing it up on purpose to try to get that kind of reaction out of somebody, I think.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating, because when I read a book, I love it. I am a detail-oriented person, but I'm not getting into fan theories about this, that, or the other. I love The Name of the Wind. I have read it several times. It was definitely one of the inspirations for the book I chose to write. But there are people that will make 2-3 videos on just fan theories, trying to work out how things are going to connect in book 3 if we ever get there. I will never be that kind of reader, and it would be amazing to have those kind of readers kind of latch on to my work. I do not have an audiobook yet. It's something I really want to do. It's about cost, and it's also about finding the right narrator. My books feature people of color that are facing colonialism. And so my goal is to, if I'm going to tell that story, make sure that the narrator who reads it is a person of color who can really feel out that experience. And sadly, in a lot of different ways in the industry, the traditional space and the indie space, narrators of color, authors of color, artists of color are very few and far between. There's not as many opportunities. And so it's more difficult to find somebody who's been given the experience before and who has had the platform before. And so I'm trying to find the right fit for the narrator, and that's been a big holdback as well.
Yeah.
What we got?
The number of times I've Googled who would be the best person to narrate this, or narrators of color, and I find names like Barack Obama narrated his own book. Like, I don't think Barack is going to narrate this.
Michelle, I need to speak to B. Yeah, I've got a job for him.
Like, Keith David pops up. Keith David would be amazing. I'm not going to get Keith David.
No, you have better luck going down to Cumbies and trying to find somebody down there, and just
Yeah.
you know, for anybody who's not from the New England area, Cumberland Farms, you got them in Connecticut, right?
I don't think we do.
Because they're all over Massachusetts. You can't.
I used to live in Massachusetts, so I knew about it from that. But I don't think they're in Connecticut.
All right, never mind then. I'm doing something here, Mike. So carry on.
Okay.
Are you drawing a man with a flute?
I am not. Heaven knows what that might look like. That'd be like, oh, is he really that flexible? No, don't. We're not doing that.
Oh boy. So, do you like Captain Janeway? Oh, no. We're not going there. Do not answer that. Oh, James, I really should have a question for you.
You always write down questions.
I know. I do not have questions.
See, you're thrown off his timing because we're so late at night.
There we go.
Metamucil hasn't kicked in yet, the old man.
I have ruined everything.
So, Ron, I count on you to carry the water, and I just read the comments. But you're doing something now. You're designing your own Lego set. So
I'm not. But we're going to get to what I'm doing. Okay. I'm just trying to make some really quick questions, and we're going to give you a minute on the clock, James. And I'm just going to ask you a series of questions that you're just going to give me rapid fire answers to.
Go for it.
This is something I should have done in the 2 hours before this, but I didn't because I only just thought of it.
So since you're leaving me with free reign, Ro, we're going to go back to some of my old favorites.
Just say yes, humor.
Okay.
It's just not a lot.
So have you killed any bad bosses off in your book?
Right.
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry.
Have you killed any bad bosses off in your book?
Not really. So one of the things that people will experience when they're reading my book is the big bad is amorphous for the most part. Like it is the Empire. It is not a singular person. Now there definitely is a singular person that kind of comes out of this because Kalo has his obsession with his vengeance and so aims that at one person. But for the most part, the big bad is colonialism and the taking over of his people's history and all of that, and trying to survive. It's a very intimate story for the most part that's focused on the relationships between Kalo and Tayan, and then Kalo and the people he meets in his earlier life.
And El Montague is going to save us. He's asked a bunch of questions now.
Tell us about your magic system. I can tell you about my magic system.
Yeah, things we should have thought about.
So I developed my magic system because I like the idea of a sin eater. And so I was walking my dog one day and thinking about sin eaters and the idea of consuming something. And then I thought, what if there was somebody who could consume magic, who could consume magic from other beings and then use it for themselves? And so that's where this idea of a magic thief came from. And so around that, I developed this elemental magic system, and in which basically people get their magic from spirits who live on the spiritual plane. And if they're connected to one of the spirits, they can hear what they call the song from the spiritual plane, and they can pull on that, and they can manipulate either the shadows, the fire, wind, earth, water, or plant life. Or the last one is to be a thief, and they can borrow those abilities from other people. So it's really interesting to be able to pull on those different aspects, but also I like the idea of writing about it like a song, because you can play on that. You don't get into a whole lot of sound in a lot of books, but it can play with the idea of this magic almost as music. And it allows me to kind of do the flowery writing that I used to do with poetry a bit, and put that into the books.
It's nice. That's a nice talent to kind of fall back on.
Yeah.
Being able to, because you're probably not having ever been a poet, obviously. I'm assuming that you think of word usage probably a little different than a typical sci-fi writer or fantasy writer.
Maybe I can't speak to how everybody else thinks, but poetry taught me how to edit. It taught me how to use effective language and how to be concise with what I want to say, but also how to know when not to be concise, and how to know when the rhythm and the feeling of a sentence is more important than writing it in the shortest way possible. And so I liked I like books that are a little bit on the purpler side of prose. And so my books do fall into that realm sometimes.
All right. Give me a minute on the clock.
So, well, hold on, because EL, before he gets banned, because it is after 30 minutes. So
yeah. We've got to get that done quick then.
So, do villains need a backstory?
No, I think it depends on the story you're trying to tell. If you're trying to tell a story that is rationalizing the villain's point of view, that is trying to make the protagonist's point of view more complex, then sometimes the villain's backstory can really help, because you see this person as a multi-dimensional character that really needs to be understood. In my books, they're written from the perspective of those people without power who have been colonized by a foreign empire. I don't understand how, from their POV, they would ever care about the backstory of their oppressor. Right. And so from that point of view, a villain's backstory would get in the way of that specific story being told. Not about a king, not about a leader of armies or anything like that, but about people that are trying to survive this thing that's happened to their country.
Okay, so EL has false confidence.
That misplaced confidence. I love it. How does love fit into your story? Oh, man, we're going down that road. All right.
How does love fit in my story? EL is just taking all these questions. There's not a huge love subplot in my story. There is one love subplot that it's slow burning. But also, Kalo is telling this story to a 14-year-old girl at the beginning of the book. He's not going to start talking about all of his fade to black moments. So there's not going to be that kind of spice in this book or in this series because of the way it's told. I think it would be ridiculous if at one point you turn the chapter and Kalo's like, and then I undressed her. Like, you're telling this to a 15-year-old girl right now? That's creepy. Yeah.
Having said that, How I Met Your Mother went for 9 seasons doing just that.
Probably a different tone.
You've seen the show, right?
Yes, I have.
It's like, I can just see these kids like, oh, Dad, why are you telling me this, man?
That's really disgusting.
To the hospital, get yourself checked out.
Okay, Ro.
He's not coming here anymore, man. That dude slept here one night. Gross.
Although it does star Bob Saget as the future dad telling the story, so I can see Bob Saget telling that story to his kids.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. You ready?
Ready.
Just right off the top. Ready? Go. Beer, liquor, or wine?
Liquor.
Do you drive a stick?
No.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Can you read cursive?
Yes.
Local place or Duncan?
Local place.
Patriots or Giants?
Neither.
Panther or plotter?
What was that?
Panther or plotter? You've kind of answered this already.
Panther.
Okay. Do you write on a computer, a phone, or do you just write with a pen?
Computer.
Snape or Harry? Who's the hero?
Harry.
No, okay, you're wrong. Yes or no to the
Snape is the incel. What was that?
Yes or no to Jar Jar the Sith Lord?
No.
Who wins when there's a stormtrooper versus a Star Trek red shirt?
Star Trek red shirt, because the stormtrooper can't hit anything.
Okay. Pudding, cooked or instant?
Cooked, I guess.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Two left. Bar fight, Mary versus Pippin.
Pippin.
And you win it. Wait, don't tell me who's the voice you choose for your phone.
What?
You win it. Wait, don't tell me. The NPR quiz show. Who's the voice you choose for your home answering machine?
I don't know that reference.
All right, that's fine. Disregard. Thank you. Thanks for playing along.
Yeah, no problem.
And Jubilee wants to know if you would try rewriting the show Lost.
I love the beginning of the show, Lost. I think it just got convoluted and crazy towards the end. No, I would not try to rewrite that story. I don't see myself ever wanting to do an adaptation or writing an adaptation. And let's be honest. Harry and Snape are both not the hero of the story.
Who is?
I'd have to say someone like Hermione or Neville.
Neville had like 5 minutes.
He's the one who ultimately won at the end. Harry ends up being a wizard cop and does nothing to change any of the systemic issues that helped create a fascist rise of Lord Voldemort. I think he's just boring.
So, James, I really should have contacted you before the show and told you to answer Dumbledore as the hero, just so Rose's head would have exploded.
Dumbledore is like an abusive old man who left.
Right? Thank you.
Who left a kid with an abusive family for no reason besides it's safe.
You'll never be safer than you are at Hogwarts, Harry, and every year he gets the shit beat out of him.
Like, he could have easily died from malnutrition or a beating at that family's house.
Well, at Hogwarts, he got beat up all the time. And the guy wouldn't actually give him answers to questions of information he needed to know. And E.L. said, I've dated myself again, and I'm not sure what he means by that.
The villain of Harry Potter is J.K. Rowling.
I'm sure sitting on her $1 billion like Scrooge McDuck, she does not care.
She doesn't. You don't think she's watching this?
She must be that one extra person that we're trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah. I mean, we do have 12 people currently watching this, so it very well could be her.
I'm kind of amazed. I've jacked this whole thing up. Hermione be the one who, yeah, and I don't see what she saw in
Ron.
There,
yeah.
Umbridge is a great character because she was super hateable.
Yeah.
I mean, I really dislike her character, but I mean that was just written really well because you're supposed to hate her, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. Okay, sorry.
So I just want to tell you, my nephew, when he was in high school, he kept telling my brother, he was like, Dad, we have Umbridge. She is our teacher. He's like, okay, just whatever, Jeff. And they had parents' night, so they went into her class so she could explain her theories or whatever. And she gave them assigned seats based on their last name, alphabetized, and told them they all had to sit down and be quiet before she would start. To the parents.
To the parents?
Nice.
Yes, to the parents.
Oh, man. I would love that to happen.
I agree with Jubilee here that Umbridge was realistic because there are so many people that just want power to abuse people.
Oh, God,
and that's exactly who Umbridge was.
And here's some fighting words.
You will die on that hill. He didn't do the best he could. He was negligent. He would have been put on a list somewhere. He shouldn't be within 500 yards of the school. Here's the other thing. If every bad wizard was in Slytherin, why wouldn't, when the hat says you should be in Slytherin, you just chuck that kid out right away? Right?
There are so many plot holes in Harry Potter. Like, Harry Potter is just not a well-plotted story. There are so many things that don't make sense. If you can manipulate time, why couldn't they do that so many times throughout the book? If you have you have all of these issues of like Dumbledore being able to just pull memories from his mind. They could have easily proven so many times that this, that, or the other thing happened. Why was Sirius Black in prison if you can pull memories from somebody's mind and watch them? Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's crazy. We've really gone down the Harry Potter. And now, don't get me wrong. I really like the Harry Potter series. I was stationed in England when I think Order of the Phoenix came out. And I had like just a streaming nasty cold. I just felt like death warmed over. But I went down to the bookshop and stood in line for 2 hours on a miserable October freaking rainy English evening to get a copy of the book. We actually got two, and I went home and gave my wife one, knowing I wasn't going to work the next day, and got myself one as well. So I didn't dress up or anything. Don't get me wrong. But I do like it. But yeah, there are some just mind-numbing inconsistencies with that.
Yeah, they have all that magic, and they have owls deliver mail.
The hell, right?
As Brennan Lee Mulligan puts it, if they have all that magic and they have owls deliver mail, they are sadistic. They live in a sadistic society. To choose the world's slowest flying bird to deliver your mail.
Easy on owls. Easy on owls. I'm a fan.
But no, I mean, I'm not. It's not a knock on owls. It's a knock on wizards for abusing them.
Well, fair.
Well, I mean, they have house elf slaves.
Yes.
Right.
And the big theme about the slaves is they want to be slaves, but Dobby was different. Like, there are some really big issues with the themes in that book.
Yeah, it really is. See, now that would be kind of an interesting story to do a take on, and say, okay, if Harry Potter were set in today's world, right? First of all, you have the internet and cell phones, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we do? Hold on. You know, magic may not be able to do it, but Google will figure this shit out for us. So anyway, yeah, Snape was the freaking hero of this thing, man.
Snape was an incel. Like, he was abusive to a child because he liked the child's mother and was angry at his father for getting with the child's mother. He was abusive to a kid, but he was an incel.
Harry's dad was a dick.
Yeah, I didn't say Harry's dad was great, but Snape was not a hero.
He was. He worked for the bad guy. He had to be like a double agent the entire time.
He became a wizard Nazi and then later decided that was wrong after the wizard Nazi leader killed his love that he couldn't have.
I'm going to put this in quotes because I've never heard this term before. So we're just going to...
What were the Death Eaters if not wizard Nazis?
Oh, my God. Okay. We're just going to add this to the Jar Jar Binks Sith Lord thing. Wizard Nazi now is now a thing. Thank you, James. It's been well worth the 47 minutes so far just for Wizard Nazi.
Ooh. So you said before you had a spin-off series you're thinking about. I'm going to try to bring it back to the book, I swear. I mean, that's kind of why we're here, right?
No, I see how this dynamic works.
Well done, okay, yeah, go ahead. No, that is why you're here, and thank you very much, by the way. We really appreciate it. And for your willingness to go down these ludicrous little row holes that we're going down.
And that's the fun part of it, right? So spin-off series, I haven't really announced anything about it. I've kind of hinted at it before. I'm interested in finding out more about, so the Gausht are the empire that invade Ania. And I'm interested in learning more about the history of the Gausht and exploring that continent, which we don't do at all in the first series. And so I think there's an interesting story there. I haven't really thought it all out, so I can't speak on it too much. My big question for myself as an author is, do I want to continue in this world, or do I want to explore one of the dozen other ideas that I really am interested in as well? So I think I'll probably do something where I do like book one of 2 different series, and I keep on going back and forth for a little while. Because I do want to explore some different magic systems and some different storylines.
There are a lot of people who actually make money doing what we do, who say that is a really good idea, because especially if you go to like a Comic-Con or anything, and we'll get into this if we haven't asked you if you go to those yet, you have multiple entry points into your writing. Rather than just having it all in one world where you really kind of have to, if you have 8 books and that's probably I think a good way to go, because you can always come back to it. I mean, you're young, you can do this for decades. And if you're George R.R. Martin, maybe you need decades to get that last book done.
Let's hope that's not the case. Hopefully this last book comes out this year. But yeah, I think I'll probably do a little bit of jumping between series. There's a couple of standalone ideas that I have. There's a couple of series ideas that I have, and I want to play around in different worlds. I think that's what makes me most exciting about writing, is being able to play around with new ideas. And so I think that's this book I'm writing right now is the hardest book that I've written. One, because I have to tie so many different things together. Two, because none of my other I wrote the drafts of my other books when nobody was watching, nobody cared. Yeah. Now there's a little bit of thought about like, when is it coming out? And three, because I know the story in my mind so well that I'm no longer really exploring a whole lot when I'm putting it on page. So it's not as entertaining to write it out. And so those are just some hurdles that I'm, having to jump over, but I'll make it. But
yeah, I think the deeper you go into a series, all the stuff that you've built and had so much fun building, you now have rules, right?
Yes.
Now you have to remember all that stuff, and you've got to maintain your story within it. And your mind, meanwhile, is going, it's like, oh, let's press this button.
Yes.
It's like, oh, we can't do that here. So yeah.
Yeah, the one piece of advice I tell new authors is don't be in a hurry to publish your first book, because once you do, then if people like it and they're like, where's the next one? Then it becomes more work. Whereas if you're just, if I had the discipline, which I do not, I would write like an entire trilogy, and then I'd publish book one. I'd wait 3 months. I'd publish book two. I'd wait, but there's no way I'm going to ever do that. So it's advice that I won't take, but I think it's good advice.
No, it's great advice. I think that's really, you never know how much time you won't have moving forward until after you publish, because then you have to think about the website, the management of social media, the management of this marketing materials, how to fulfill your orders if you're going to sell them out of your house or if you're going to do whatever. There's just so much more to think about afterwards.
Jubilee's putting down a whole magic system over here.
Yep. Jubilee, you need to write that story. That's what it is.
Yeah. Blue associated with water, orange associated with panting and summoning stories or whatever. So yeah, that's the nice thing about magic, right? Is you've got like carte blanche to do whatever you want to do. And ideas spring from a book I'm writing now. The idea kind of clicked in when we had Roberti on here, right, Mike?
Michael Roberti, yep.
Michael Roberti. He said something, and I kind of went, ooh, and so we're 20,000 words deep into that right now.
Nice.
So,
and Jubilee meant painting, not panting.
Yeah, you can say that all you want. That's fine.
Oh, Ro, it's a good thing we're not monetized.
And we never will be if I stay here. So, sorry. No, I can be good, man. I survived, in situations where I couldn't swear. It's all good.
No. But now you're out of those situations.
You'd think so, but
So who do you like to read, James?
I have the bad habit of reading first in the series, and just never having time to come back to the rest of the series. So I like to explore new authors. My favorite author has to be a fight between Fonda Lee and N.K. Jemisin. I think they both tell wildly amazing stories. Jemisin more for her prose than anything else, and her thoughts, her themes. And Fonda Lee for her ability to just really get characters and get plot in a very interesting way. I can't think of a story that's hit me more than the Greenbone Saga in terms of how well she carried those character arcs throughout the series. But lately I've been reading a lot of first in the series. Right now I'm reading the first of the Dragon Blade trilogy. And I just finished the Ember Blade, and then right before that was The Shadow of What Was Lost or something like that by Mike Islington.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What was lost in the shadow? Something I forget that.
I know the book you're talking about. It has the pillars on the cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's The Will of the Many.
Oh,
you're right. Series by the same writer.
You're right. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
But
So if you're on the desert island thing and you can only bring 3 books with you, what are you bringing?
Sanderson, because you'll never finish him before you die.
I mean, Sanderson would not be on my list. He's not a bad writer. I enjoy what he writes. I just don't think he and I connect as a reader and an author as much. I would definitely bring Name of the Wind. I've read that book several times and I always find something new. I love the prose of it. I would probably bring the 5th season. And maybe I'll just do Jade City to complete the trilogy of authors right there. Trifecta.
Okay, so I have another question. What's the weirdest thing you ever had to do for work?
And I had a lot of odd jobs as a kid. I pushed grocery carts. I was a managing director. I was a manager in a pool hall. I worked the assembly line at a factory.
What were you making?
What?
What were you making?
I was a temp worker at Amway in Grand Rapids, and so they would just put me on whatever line was available, and I had to call in to get whatever shift I could. So some days it was first, second, or third shifts, and you just kind of flip it around. Not great sleep.
That sounds terrible.
It was not fun.
Did the people who were right above you get a portion of your paycheck?
Probably.
Okay.
And Ro, there's a reason why Tim is my favorite Canadian, because look at his.
Yeah. So he's your favorite Canadian today because he wasn't yesterday when we had Sam on.
The hardest job I ever worked, though, was I was a middle school teacher, and that brings some wild situations and all of that. It's not weird in terms of being a teacher, but just being in the classroom with 6th and 7th graders.
I know a bunch of teachers, and all of them, and you can tell me if you agree or not, all of them have said that the kids are fine. It's dealing with the parents that makes the job suck.
I have a change in that. The kids are fine. It's dealing with the school and the system that sucks.
Okay.
Because I taught in a school that didn't have resources. I didn't have like a math book for my kids. The teacher next to me was always sitting down, and his kids were just doing whatever in the classroom. So the school culture sucked. So to get them to actually sit down and do something in my classroom was really difficult. And I was 22.
All right. So that's a great first impression for a job to walk into a situation like that.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, where I work now, we used to be math mentors. We'd go in and help 5th graders learn math. And so I went and I had a couple kids, and the one took his shoe off and hit the other one over the top of the head a couple times. And I'm like, stop that. And he's like, no. And I'm like, stop that, or I will say, stop that again. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, help.
We had one kid in a classroom that wrote "I hate you" on the back of her hand, just in the middle of a lesson, just rose her hand up like this and put it back down and wiped it off. So the evidence was gone. Nice. So we had some interesting kids. They definitely kept us on our toes. And you could not pay me enough to be back in the classroom as a teacher. And it's not because it's not a good thing to do, or it's not a worthwhile experience. People don't invest in education anymore. And so it makes the classroom experience horrible when you have 30 kids to manage to one teacher, how much learning is actually going to happen?
And some, I won't even say. I could never teach young kids like that. I did have a chance to teach at a university ROTC program once, and that was actually really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because, you're dealing with soon to be, grown-ass people, right? Yeah. And that was a lot of fun, but yeah, I don't see how anybody can teach kids under high school age. No.
Yeah. It's rough. You have to be of a certain disposition and hopefully a good systems around you.
In infinite patience.
Yes.
So up in Connecticut where you are, you must have a lot of opportunities to go to either conventions or shows or places where you can kind of get your book out. Yeah.
I have not invested a whole lot of time in in-person events. It's something that I want to do. But unfortunately, I have two toddlers. Unfortunately, that means I don't have enough time to do much.
Oh, yeah. Are they twins? Oh, so, no. One was born like a couple years after the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a almost 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And so I write a few days a week after they go to sleep, like right now. This is when I have time to do things. So maybe I'll get to a conventions eventually.
I honestly envy you this year because the 5-year-old Christmas is the best Christmas ever.
Oh yeah.
It is so much fun. That's like the sweet spot of age. Because you've got like 7 to 8 more good years. Okay. And then comes the 12 to 13-year-old time.
Yeah.
And then you're just wanting them to go to college, and you're suggesting that maybe they look at schools that are out of state. That might be a good idea. It'll help you grow.
Really close with your kids?
What's that?
Really close with your kids?
No, it's obviously, but there's just those moments, right, where just like the school where you're just kind of like, but yeah, 5 is just freaking brilliant.
I mean, they run us down here too. I was the only one in this house last night that did not throw up. Like there's a sickness going on in our house right now. So I didn't throw up, but I was up cleaning throw up last night at 2 a.m. So we're in that lovely stage of life right now.
Yeah. Hey, you know what though, man? You've heard it before, and I don't mean to get serious on this show at all. Sorry. But
that's not your role,
because it goes so fast, and you're going to turn around twice, and they're going to be freaking gone, and you're going to be looking at an empty bedroom, going, "What the hell happened?" So.
Yeah, they can run us wild, and they can really run down my patience. But there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than having my kids and hanging out with them. They're 2 amazing boys, and it's a joy of life. It is also an extremely hard part of life, and so there's the balance in that.
But when you need your characters to do some dumb shit, just look over at your boys, and there's probably going to be some inspiration there. It's like, oh yeah, they could do that. No, it's not all bad. And then they're a deduction, right?
Yes, that's why we had them. Yeah.
Oh, Jubilee, I don't even want to know what else.
So my younger brother, he used to eat cigarettes.
Nice.
And he told me that you don't eat the end of it, the filter, because that doesn't taste good.
I mean, I guess it's produce. But yeah, my brother used to jump off the roof onto a trampoline, and then my parents were really wondering how the trampoline bent like that. So hopefully my kids won't be disasters and try to climb onto the roof and all of that. Well, we'll see.
So is it just two, or is there going to have like half a dozen of them? Make a little
No,
baseball.
this one is a duology. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
story is over.
You've replaced yourself. You and your wife have replaced yourself. That's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Roof to trampoline. Roof. If you got like 5 feet of snow and jump off the roof, okay.
Yeah.
Trampoline, yeah, not so much.
Oh no! When it was snow, he jumped off the roof wearing his snowboard onto the trampoline.
Because that'll look cool.
Yeah.
You show him the Darwin Awards for that year?
I mean, he survived, so I don't think he was eligible.
Oh. And Tobias has a horror story for us.
Trampoline to Thornbush. That's good planning.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
All right. Hey, I think we've gone down the last hole we can go down. We got people telling jumping off roof stories now. So, James, I want to thank you for being here and for your patience, which you have obviously earned with your children. And you thought you were going to get a break from children, but you didn't. You just got 2 older and balder ones. And
it's like teaching middle school all over again, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think you are going to pass the class.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be the first time. So it's all good. Anyway, great luck with your series.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the new thing that you've got coming out.
And I promise I will buy them all. I hopefully get around to reading them, but I bought them, so you got something from me.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
And
well, it was a pleasure. Thank you both for having me, and I enjoyed myself. I don't exactly know what we talked about, but it was a good time.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We have fun. Thank you to all the folks tuning in with us. We appreciate you all being here. That's pretty awesome. And Mike and I will get to work on our first ever Bald&Balding book awards, indie book awards project.
Why don't we make it like you have to write haikus or something?
That's right. That's your entry thing. Best haiku gets in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, you got the inside track then, James. So
that's right.
Yeah, I'll have to bone up on my haiku.
You can do iambic pentameter if you're into that kind of thing. We wouldn't know it if we saw it, so just tell us it is.
My whole book is written on an iambic pentameter.
That would be cool as hell.
I think actually Patrick Rothfuss did a chapter in iambic pentameter kind of just to prove he could.
Uh-huh.
And most people don't know that it's there.
No, but if you tell people that it is first, even if they don't recognize it, they will just be all ooh, ah, all over themselves.
Yeah.
And they will think they've read something really smart because they remember hearing the phrase iambic pentameter when they were in 7th grade.
That's true.
Okay. And since you said iambic pentameter, I just have to tell you, I have some songs in my book which stress the hell out of me having to write. So I just kept singing London Bridge, and I was like, okay, what are the words of London Bridge? I'm going to make the syllables the same. And so that is all the poetry should be written or spoken like it's London Bridge is falling down.
Is this the book you're sending to me?
No, these are the ones you've already read.
Oh, and you didn't tell me that before? That would have made it so much better had I had a tune to go with it. Freaking London Bridge. Good God.
So
it's a classic.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we can end it.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you all.